You're listening to a fight against free kill laws from AMP Media Production Studio.
Welcome to the Fight Against Free Kill Laws with Ed Salazar, where we give a voice to those who have suffered firsthand from medical malpractice. In Florida, families devastated by medical negligence are left without justice because of a law many don't even know exists. Florida's free kill law prevents families from holding doctors accountable. These are real stories with real loss and no justice. Contact Ed at 561-239-2417 or visit afreekill.com. Today we uncover the truth, share real stories, and demand change.
Hello and welcome to our first show of our second season on the fight against free kill laws. Thank you very much for taking the time to watch this presentation. It's much appreciated. An awful lot has happened. To try to recap what happened last year, for the first time ever, this effort to abolish the free kill laws in Florida made it through both the Florida House and Senate by an overwhelming majority, only to be vetoed by Governor DeSantis. And Governor DeSantis, in his address for the rationale, the reason why he decided to veto it, he stated that it was in the best interest of the residents of Florida because he felt that abolishing the law would result in higher health insurance premiums and higher malpractice insurance for physicians. During the course of this second season, we are going to bring evidence to show that there is nothing that's ever been demonstrated to substantiate this. Also in that address that Governor DeSantis made, he spoke about using these laws to curb what he called jackpot justice, people seeking jackpot justice. And that was an incredibly insulting thing to say to people that have been fighting to abolish these laws for so many years. I've been involved in this program myself since my son passed in 2009. We have many other members in our group, the Florida Medical Rights Association, that have been fighting for this just as long. And we know that there is no recourse for any financial damages being recovered or anything like that. The reason we do this is simply because we know this is an unjust law. It's unfair to the people of Florida, and it's time for it to go. There was a recent release regarding Governor DeSantis, which demonstrated that the governor, instead of meeting with families who had loved ones that were victims of the free kill law, he chose instead to meet with lobbyists or people representing industries that were opposed to the abolishment of the law. He met with lobbyists representing hospital groups, insurance groups. I'm not sure, but I think there probably was representation from other sources as well. We will provide you more information on that in subsequent shows as well. Now, the effort to overthrow these laws is far, far, far from being over. This Wednesday, October 15th at 11:30 a.m., the Florida House Civil Justice and Claims Subcommittee will hold the first hearing on new House Bill 6003. Representative Dana Trasbolzi's bill to repeal Florida's free kill law will be discussed. We need as much support for this Congress lady, and we need as much input from listeners out here to show how strong the support for this effort is. If you go to the website for the Florida Medical Rights Association, you will find a lot of information on websites that you can file your position with. You can state your position, you know, your feelings. You can also find information on how to contact whoever your congressman or senator is in the state of Florida for the Florida legislature. If you are listening and you are outside of the state of Florida, any advocacy, any support you can demonstrate would be deeply appreciated. And I strongly recommend that you yourself, if you're outside of the state of Florida, look into what happens in the state where you live. If someone is 25 years of age or older, unmarried, has no children, no one financially dependent upon them, what happens if these people are the victims of malpractice in your state? Look into the statutory limits of sovereign immunity laws. These are all things that have a tremendous impact on medical care in this country. And as I said, you know, last season, you know, I've been a respiratory therapist in South Florida now for over 50 years. For 30 years, I worked within the hospital system that, you know, my son was in the care of. And I was completely unaware of these laws. So this is, you know, something very, very, very important to be sure that you understand. And if you are so inclined, please get involved. Please reach out to the Florida Florida Medical Rights Association. As far as what's being done right now, we have a real warrior in our group, Daryl Parrott. Daryl's son was a victim of the free kill laws, and he is responsible for spearheading a billboard campaign. And this is powerful. This is very, very powerful and extremely impressive, and shows the degree of Daryl's resolve in this effort. And I believe we have a video that I'd like to show from a news clip regarding Daryl's billboard campaign.
St. Augustine man is reigniting the fight to end Florida's so-called free kill law. Daryl Parrott, whose son died in a Florida hospital last year, has put up this new billboard on I-95. This is near the Florida state line. He says he wants to raise awareness about the law that's been on the books in Florida for decades now. That law says that if you're over 25, single, and have no kids under the age of 25, your loved ones cannot recover damages for medical negligence resulting in a death. He also created a political action committee to help educate people about the law, and he's encouraging others to contact their state lawmakers.
No one knows that this law exists until somebody is dead, and then it's too late to do anything about it. So that's what I'm doing. I'm dedicating my time and my efforts so that nobody has to go through what I've been through.
Now, there was a bill to repeal the free kill law that passed the Florida legislature this year. However, Governor Ron DeSantis vetoed it. A similar bill has been filed just last month to be discussed next legislative session.
That is powerful. It's bold and it's powerful. Those of you who may, you know that Governor DeSantis is proud of referring to the free state of Florida. And it was clever and bold of Daryl to modify that slogan just a bit. In what we are going to do, I want to, just briefly, with regards to our first season, I want to thank everyone who appeared on those programs. Cindy Jenkins, one of the first people that I became aware of who was involved as I was in all of this. Lauren Koryenko, who has now become the director of the Florida Medical Rights Association, and she will do a tremendous job. Jana Ben-Nun and her son Ethan Suto warriors. They're in Tallahassee all the time. They're always in the face of these legislators. Beth Potts was on our program, also a warrior. Linda Bowman in Orlando. And down here in South Florida, Dr. Allison Ashley. All warriors and all people who have suffered heartbreaking loss and torment as a consequence of these laws. Also, I would like to urge anyone listening right now, please, when you go to our website, all of the videos from this program can be seen on Facebook. There's a Facebook channel, afreekill.com, all one word, and we have a lot of information there about what this movement is doing. There is also a YouTube channel, and if you just do a search for A Free Kill, Ed Salazar, then this will pop up. For both the Facebook page and the YouTube channel, please, if you think this is useful, you think it's a good cause, then please like, follow, and share. This generating numbers in these categories is extremely essential to perpetuating and to keep moving on with what we're trying to do. Other people that I've been introduced to, I have not yet met Travis Cretin, but he's a warrior. I look forward to hopefully meeting him in the near future. Paul Reinhardt, and as I showed you, this Daryl Parrott. I can't wait to meet him. And he's also the proprietor of one of my favorite cuisines, a barbecue house in St. Augustine. And I believe the name of his establishment is Smokin' D's. Believe me, Daryl, as soon as I can get up into the St. Augustine area, we will be meeting. The other thing that I would like to do very, very much is solicit from anyone who's listening to this. If you have had in your family someone who has been a victim of the Florida free kill laws, or if you know someone who has been a victim of these laws, please have them reach out either to me or to the Florida Medical Rights Association. Give us a brief description of what happened, any information that you feel comfortable sharing, names, dates, and anything like that. And we already have quite a huge registry of people and family members who have been victims of this horrible law. But we want to grow it more. We want to make it bigger. What's you're seeing on the screen right now, this website is for Florida's freekilllaw.org. If you go to this website, then you can find a tab, How Can I Help? And if there is anything you can do to help support financially the effort for this billboard campaign and any other projects that they may choose to undertake, it would be greatly appreciated. Because up to this point, all the warriors, all the people fighting to repeal this law in the memory of the people that they love, they've been shouldering the expenses themselves. And any help, any support we can get from individuals or entities that would be interested in helping to shoulder some of the weight, the financial weight, would be deeply appreciated. One last comment that I'd like to make, and this is directly to the legislators, the Florida legislators. There's a lot of division in the country, and there's a lot of division in Florida. But know this, everyone that is so passionately involved in this effort to repeat the free kill laws, politically, we have a 180-degree spectrum. We go from far right to far left and everything in between. But make absolutely no mistake, for this cause, for this effort, we are in lockstep. We are 100% united, and we will work together to get this law abolished, and we will support congressmen who share our position. To end this first program, in honor of my son, Christopher, we're going to replay a video that was produced by AMP2 Studios here in Boca Raton, Florida, and I'm forever grateful for them and their talent and their skills. Okay, thank you very much. We'll see you again next week.
Come on, Chris. Come on, Chris. He can touch it. Go, go.
Chris loved life. He had a strong sense of adventure. He was no angel, but he had a big heart and he had a very generous nature. Chris was the kind of friend that if you ever had a friend that was your go-to guy, somebody that you knew that you could always count on if you needed a hand with something, somebody that you could count on if you just need a little support. You know, Christopher was that kind of a guy. He loved the outdoors, he loved athletics, he loved fishing, diving, and he loved his family. He started working in the service industry, in restaurants. He enjoyed cooking. He enjoyed serving. And he became a father at about age 22. They had 2 daughters. He had been living in Melbourne and found a better job opportunity coming back here to Coral Springs. So they came back, and he had only been here 6 or 7 days. He was with a friend who had been a childhood friend of his. They had remained good friends, and they were working in the same restaurant. They went out after work. They got off work about 11 o'clock at night, and they went to a restaurant next to the one they worked at, and they were there for a couple hours, and they were on their way home. And at 1:30 in the morning, while making a left-hand turn, the car that Chris's friend was driving got T-boned by an oncoming car, and Chris was in the passenger side.
How you doing, fellas? Ready for another one, Chris?
Chris!
You ready for another climb? I'm ready for a nap.
At 3 o'clock in the morning, I got a phone call from the trauma center closest to our home, and the nurse told me that Christopher had been in an accident and that it would be in my best interest to get there as soon as possible. I work in healthcare. I've worked in many intensive care units, emergency departments. The same hospital that he was at was the hospital that I met his mother in. So I know there's a drill. I understand when they say, you know, it's in your best interest to come as soon as possible. I knew it was very serious. We're in the waiting room, and about an hour after that, the neurosurgeon comes in to see us, and you could just see a very faint smile on his face. So I knew that, he was going to give us something positive. And he said the pressures weren't as bad as they feared they might be from the swelling and such, and that he was going to be going to the high intensive care unit. And I had visited him briefly while he was in the emergency room, and it was difficult, especially being a respiratory therapist. It was difficult to see my son intubated with the tube in his mouth, breathing on a ventilator, and his face had been so horribly disfigured from the trauma. But when we saw him in the intensive care unit, nothing had changed very much, but it was just such a relief to know that we had received some positive news from the initial surgery. On the second or third day, Carol and I were at the bedside, and Carol said to him, "Chris, if you can hear me, give me a thumbs up." And he laid there, and without moving his head or any other indication of acknowledgement, he put his thumb up. So that meant everything to us. His mother, Kathy, was with him most of the time during the day, and she's also a critical care nurse, and she would do all sorts of little neuro tests, and she also told us that he was responding appropriately. And so gradually, day by day, he got better and better. He got stronger and stronger. Now this was on the 23rd of March. On April 1st, he was weaned off the ventilator. So now he was breathing completely on his own. Again, very, very positive signs. On the morning of April 9th was the only morning that either his mother, myself, or my wife, one of us weren't there. And the reason was that we had an appointment with a lawyer to set up a trust account, because we wanted to be sure that we had financial arrangements for not only Christopher's care and his rehab, but also to be sure that there was going to be support for his two daughters. His daughters were 3 and 5 at the time. I got back to the hospital about 5 p.m. and I went up to the unit. I saw Kathy, and she had a concerned look on her face, and I asked her what was the problem. And she says, "Well, when I walked in the room, I told the therapist that the trach didn't sound right." And her response was, "Well, it's been like that all day." Also, she noticed immediately that he was tachycardic. His heart rate was very high. It was right around 120. And they were having trouble oxygenating him. They were having trouble maintaining his saturations. And on 100% oxygen, he was only 92% saturated, which meant there was something definitely going on. He wasn't ventilating properly. And Kathy asked for some lab tests to be done so that they could measure his carbon dioxide content. And that way, they would know if there was an issue with his ventilation. The results came back showing that he had a compensated respiratory acidosis. He was retaining CO2, he wasn't able to blow it off, so it didn't matter how much oxygen he got, he wasn't going to be ventilating well. And in order for him to compensate the way he did, whatever he had been dealing with, whatever the problem was, it had been present for some time, at least 12 hours.
That was pretty. There's Chris.
Christopher's accident was at 1:30 in the morning, March 22nd, 2009. Christopher coded at 6 p.m. April 9th. And at 6:31 p.m. he was pronounced dead. You know, losing Christopher was as much tragedy as any family can endure. And after I got over just the grief, anger started to come into my feelings, and I knew that there had been, the ball had been dropped. A young, healthy man, a 27-year-old man with a normal, healthy heart and lungs, should not die of cardiopulmonary arrest in an intensive care trauma unit. Something was wrong here. The medical records that we got from the hospital showed that even after Christopher was weaned off the ventilator, he continued to receive morphine and Ativan in pretty much the same dosages he received it while he was on the ventilator, even though an order had been written to discontinue it. He had a critical lab value on his lab work. It was either the day before or the day of his resuscitation, which was never reported to the physicians. When we got the blood gas results and confirmed that he wasn't ventilating properly, an order was put in for him to have an X-ray to examine the placement of the tube. When they came up to do the X-ray, they did an AP, an anterior posterior shot. They did not do a lateral or translateral shot. So according to the vertical view of the X-ray, the tube appeared to be in the correct position. Our feeling was that had they done a lateral X-ray, they would have seen that it was too far anterior. As on Christopher's autopsy, it confirmed that there had been a tear, a mediastinal tear, caused by the tube being out of position. So we started looking into a malpractice case. I went to one law firm and they looked at what had happened. They looked at the medical records and you know, my testimony, and they said, well, you've got a very strong case. After they learned more about the hospital that he was in and you know, the situation there, it is the first time I learned about a statute called sovereign immunity. Sovereign immunity is an Old English term that basically means you can't sue the king. But in this context, what it refers to is statutory limits on financial liability for institutions like hospitals, tax-supported hospitals, that are protected by the statute. And after being on our third legal team, we were told that at that time, in 2009, in the state of Florida, the statutory limit per claimant was $100,000. We were told that our best option would be to go to mediation, because by their estimates, it would take us at least $250,000 to bring the case to court. So we went to mediation, and we had the lawyers representing the hospital, the lawyers representing the anesthesia group, the lawyers representing the ER physicians, everyone telling us how sorry they were for our loss. And then collectively, they proceeded to offer us a $40,000 settlement. When they left the conference room, I looked to my lawyer and I said, what happened? What just happened here? And he said, you know, Ed, no lawyer will ever admit they've said this, but lawyers representing clients who are covered by or protected by sovereign immunity will tell their clients, what you have here is a free kill. You can offer them anything you want. There's nothing they can do about it.
Nicknamed the Florida Free Kill Law. It's called the Florida Free Kill Law.
Chances are you or someone you know is a so-called free kill here in the state of Florida.
25-year-old daughter died in the hospital. 25 is a critical age in Florida. That's when you can become what critics of the law call a free kill.
Say hello. There he is.
A free kill is a slang term used amongst medical malpractice lawyers in the state of Florida to describe two different situations, sovereign immunity being one of them, that if the death occurs in a sovereign hospital, it's basically a free kill. Regardless of how extreme the negligence is, there's going to be no monetary recovery. I'm Scott Henratty. I'm an attorney practicing law in the state of Florida for about 26 years. I'm a trial partner currently at Morgan & Morgan. The injured party, the decedent here, Mr. Salazar's son, was treated at a sovereign hospital, a state-run hospital. So sovereign immunity applied. So even though there was malpractice, somebody did something wrong to cause his son's death, the amount that you can possibly recover at that time was limited to $100,000. Medical malpractice cases are very expensive to prosecute. So we would have had to spend more money than we could possibly ever recover. So in the end, it doesn't even make it feasible for us to try to represent someone who's killed in a sovereign hospital. The cost of the litigation would be much higher than anything that could ever be recovered. So it makes absolutely no sense to bring suit. Most states, I know what the rules are in Florida because I practice here. Most states do have some form of sovereign immunity because it comes back from King, and the King being sovereign, so it comes from England ultimately. So most of the states, if not all of them, do have some form of statutory immunity. Anyone who goes to a public hospital in the state of Florida can be affected by the sovereign immunity, them or a loved one. The only way to fix that is to lobby your legislatures. You have to be proactive in it. They've been proactive over the last few years, again, by raising the limits, but the limits are still too low. But until the legislature changes those limits on the sovereign immunity, people are still going to be victims.
It's 5 o'clock in the morning. I didn't have anything else to record on. I hope this records. Just want to remember what a lucky man I am. Sun's going to be coming up soon. We're going to make breakfast. I think scrambled eggs and hash. We're going to spend the day out in the woods.
There she was, just walking down the street.
Christopher was my son. Christopher was also a loving, precious father. He was a grandson. He was a brother. He was a nephew. The hole that his loss left in the fabric of our life can never be replaced. It's been 15 years since we lost Christopher. In 15 years, there have been some improvement in healthcare delivery systems relative to preventable deaths. But there has been very little change in the statute of sovereign immunity. Every single state has this on their books, some form or another. And the allowances vary from state to state. What I know in Florida is that there has been very little change in the amounts, in the statutory limits. What people need to, what makes me so angry, what bothers me the most is that until it happens to somebody, they have no awareness, they have no knowledge, they have no understanding of the implications of this statute. You sign those papers to be admitted into the hospital, sometimes under a lot of duress. You know, I've been on both sides of the table. I've been on as a clinician, I've been as a patient, I've been as a family member of a patient. I understand the dynamic on both sides. But people have to know, people have to understand, they have to be aware, they have to be willing to fight and take action to make change. Medical error is going to take the life of somebody's son or daughter, somebody's mother or father. But when it happens, pray that people know and are prepared and can deal with not only the grief and the heartache, but the financial consequences, because they last a long time too. When you or someone you love is admitted to a hospital, when you sign those papers, you are saying that you understand all the terms and conditions of your hospitalization. Be sure that you do. Be sure that you know. Be sure that you ask. You know, is this hospital protected by sovereign immunity? Be sure that you are aware before you consent for surgery, before you consent for any kind of a treatment, that you understand what would be the consequences if something goes wrong. You've got a right to know, you've got a right to ask. If not for yourself, then for your loved ones. Learn how this applies where you live. Learn how this applies in the state that you live in. Talk to your legislators. Send them a message. Let them know that you know and that you want change. It is going to happen again. You don't want you or a loved one to be the next free kill. Take action.
Smile. Come on, Jenny. Everybody smile. Crazy kids.
Thug life.
And we do want to tell you about a healthcare issue that did not pass. Now, lawmakers filed 5 bills to overturn a Florida law that limits who can sue over medical malpractice deaths. None of those bills made it out of committee.